some sauce?
Scene 1, Apple, take 1.
What is up out there in YouTube land? So in the 70s, when I was a kid, my older brother and my older sister and I would always be waiting for our grandmother to pick us up for the weekend. Friday, my mother, who worked during the day and didn't usually have a lot of energy to cook for us, would often end up making TV dinners because it was the easy solution. And I remember us laying down in the living room watching TV, and we would watch things like The Love Boat, or we'd watch things like Sonny and Cher or Fantasy Island or whatever it was, while waiting for our grandmother to get off work so she could stop by, pick us up, and we'd stay over at her house for the weekend. The thing that I remember the most is watching Sonny and Cher or Donnie and Marie and the TV dinners, which I think the TV dinners were a staple of every American diet in the 60s and 70s. The TV dinner that I liked the most was the Salisbury steak TV dinner. And they had always the worst mashed potatoes ever. They had no flavor, right? They were just awful. They were god-awful potatoes. They were just the worst potatoes ever. In the middle, there was typically a cake, or there was an apple crisp. And it was always had so much sugar in it that you had to wait until you ate everything else before you dived into it, because if not, it would just be like eating molten lead, and it would just burn the inside of your mouth like crazy. And generally, if it wasn't a cake, that usually would taste bad anyway, it was an apple crisp. Apple crisp was really the best out of those. We have some apples here because we're going to be making an apple crisp. And I'm using Granny Smith apples, which I think is an alias. And you can't trust anybody that says that their last name is Smith. They're hiding something. We have the Salisbury steak. And the Salisbury steak, we're going to end up using just regular old ground beef. This is 80% beef and 20% clogged arteries. And basically the 80-20 that you see. But we need that 20. We need that fat. Okay? That fat adds flavor, and we're also going to be using it to help us make a sauce for this. Along with that sauce, though, that everybody knows or attributes to that Salisbury steak, there's two important ingredients we're going to need: an onion and beef broth. We're going to need that. There's going to be some other things too that we're going to add to it, but that's really important. One other thing we're going to be adding to it is going to be breadcrumbs, just generic breadcrumbs. You have to remember that a Salisbury steak is a generic meatloaf in a great sauce, right? And that's essentially what it is, just a great tasting sauce with a cheap piece of meat. Now, on the side, they would either put peas and carrots or they'd give you corn. The peas and carrots were tolerable, but they always lacked flavor. And the corn was just like the cake or the apple crisp. It was molten lead. You try to eat that, and essentially it would just burn all the taste buds out of your mouth. It was just like pure fire. You eat a TV dinner from the 70s with the aluminum tray, and you are not impressed by the fire eater at the carnival. Because you're like, dude, I've eaten TV dinners like my whole life, so, you know, eating fire is no big deal. You see people put cigarettes out on their tongue. If you've had a TV dinner and you've eaten the corn, it's easy. That's nothing. So I'm making this for my wife. I told her about it already. I said, when you get home, you get to have a TV dinner. But this is what's great about it. It's going to be the perfect TV dinner. It's going to be the way that a TV dinner, I think, is supposed to taste. You know how, like, you look at the picture of the TV dinner and it looks delicious, but it never really lives up to that photo? Well, this is going to be how to make the TV dinner at home from scratch, and it's going to actually taste and look better and be the real deal. I'm just going to be using this fancy little device here that I had bought years ago and I've never really needed until now. You know, when I ended up doing my video about the peanut butter ice cream, that was kind of in honor of my brother, because he would come out to California back in the day and he'd be like, I'm in the mood for a peanut butter milkshake, and it's just like, and it was out of nowhere. He'd just be like, I need a peanut butter milkshake. And so then he'd be like, where can we get one? You know, and he was just slamming so many calories. You know, he had an addiction to the peanut butter milkshake, and I think a little bit later he ended up having gallbladder problems. Now, if you have one of those old school carrot peelers, obviously, you know, you can use that instead of how I'm doing it. I'm doing it the hard way. By the way, if you like this cutting board, I have a video up on how I made it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those apples that I have just cut, and I'm fine with the sizes. You can always cut them smaller if you want to, but I'm good with the size. Touch of salt, cinnamon. For those of you that have watched my videos before, you know I'm not really too much into measuring things. I just kind of wing it a lot of times. Here's some granulated sugar. That's probably 1/4 of a cup, maybe 1/3. And I want to put about the same amount of brown sugar in there. Maybe something like that. That's more than enough sugar for these apples. I'm going to put just a hint of nutmeg in there. I don't want to put too much. This is more of a cinnamon than it is a nutmeg, right? So at this point, I can put this to the side, or I can put it in the refrigerator or whatever, so we can end up making the crumb topping for it. Okay, for the topping's easy. Put a little bit of flour in here. That's enough. Now you don't have to add oats. I'm going to be adding oats to mine. Okay, so I'm going to put maybe something like that. That's enough. You can add just regular flour to it. You don't have to do the oats. I'm just doing the oats to kick it up another notch. And now I'm going to put some sugar in here. I'm going to put some brown sugar. I need some cinnamon in this as well. If you have one of them those pastry things, you can use it. If not, you can just use a fork and try to incorporate the butter into the oats and flour. We're going to have to get some onion ready. Onion is a major flavor when it comes to Salisbury steak. Okay, so we're going to end up having to get a nice portion of this cut up and ready. Okay, so this is enough onion for our sauce. We got to get the Salisbury steak ready. I'm going to put a little bit of half and half in here. You can use milk, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, technically this portion you don't even really have to do. There's our egg. This is a little bit of salt, ground black pepper. You can put fresh onions in it, or you can use granulated. Okay, and in this particular case I'm going to be adding the granulated. I'm adding just a little bit of thyme to this, a touch of garlic powder. This is Coleman's dry mustard, just a little. This is Worcestershire sauce. This is optional. A lot of this stuff is actually optional, but this is just a little ketchup. This is a little bit of parsley. This is a little bit of breadcrumbs. We're basically making a poor man's meatloaf, really. And now we're going to throw our beef inside here. Don't be afraid to use your hands. That's why you were born with them. That I'm going to call good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are actually going to end up making the patty here. Okay, so I want to make sure that this is actually a decent sized patty. There's nothing worse than the ones from the TV dinner where you would eat it and you just be like, man, it's like there's barely anything in this particular patty. So I've got a pan heating up. I'm going to put a little olive oil inside there. What I've done is I've put flour around the outside. I just dipped this in flour. That's it. And that's going to end up helping me with the sauce a little bit later on. And I'm going to make maybe a couple more patties, and I'm going to let this fry up and brown. There may be enough room for 2. After I know one side is browned, I'll give it a flip, brown the other side. You know, the main reason why we ended up putting that flour on there is just to add a thickener. We're kind of creating a roux already. So during the time that is frying up, we can go ahead and do our apple crisp. And I have just been soaking these apples and everything inside the Ziploc bag with the cinnamon and the brown sugar and all that other good stuff. So give them that a little bit of a shake to kind of knock it down. A lot of this stuff is going to end up falling during the time that it is baking. I'm going to be turning the oven on to preheat it 350 degrees or 375, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take that topping, we're going to go ahead and place it on here. That is going to go into a 350 degree oven for about 35, maybe 40 minutes. So last one should be cooked enough to give us that color that we're looking for. We're going to end up leaving that inside there. We're going to take those onions that we had cooked earlier, throw those in. Black pepper. Touch of salt. Want to brown these onions up a little bit. Be sticking in a half a stick of butter. Just a touch of minced garlic. We don't need a lot. A lot of times people won't even add garlic to their Salisbury steak sauce. That's okay. You don't have to. Worcestershire sauce, just a little bit. Don't need a lot. What I'm going to add here is preference, but this is just some sliced mushrooms. We're going to let that cook for a while. This is beef broth. Let that come to a boil. In fact, I'm going to put more inside here because we're going to end up losing some of that. I'm adding just a little bit of thyme to this, a little bit of celery seed, parsley flakes, dash of ketchup, just to give it a little sweetness. Now that we've got a little bit of movement here in the water, it's time to go ahead and put our Salisbury steaks back in. We're going to let that finish cooking. You can put this in the oven if you want to let it finish in there with the 350. I'm going to turn the heat down on this. Now we're just going to let this stuff cook for a while. Let some of that water end up evaporating, allow this to thicken. And maybe in about 10 minutes we can add a little bit of cornstarch and water to this to thicken up the gravy. But I want to get some of that water out of there. Before it starts getting too thick, I'm going to taste this though to see if we have the right amount of seasoning. And that seasoning is fine. So I'm going to take some cornstarch and mix it with some cold water. And we're going to pour this in here. And this will thicken up the gravy that's inside here. We'll put a little bit of a dent in this so we can put a little bit of the gravy in there. And this is our Salisbury steak after it's been done. This is the main course, so this would go in front. My wife likes mushrooms, so I'm making sure that she has plenty here. The apple crisp was always in the middle. And of course, you have to have peas and carrots. This is just frozen peas and carrots that I put a little bit of salt and some butter. That's it. And some of this stuff is going over and draining into the other portion of the meal. And that was really the case, you know, with TV dinners. You always had to deal with that. Somehow there would be a pea or a carrot over here, you know. You'd have the sauce from this go into that. It was just the nature of the beast. So this TV dinner is a size that a man can eat and not actually be hungry. This is a real hungry man. I'm going to take a little black pepper, put it on the piece of carrots, a little on the potatoes. What the hell? Let's put a little bit on top of that too. And I had given this a taste, and that Salisbury steak is to die for. It's probably one of the best Salisbury steaks you'll ever have. Does it taste like Salisbury steak?
Yeah, it does taste better. You know what my dad likes? Dad likes, he always buys the frozen ones. Ugh, I don't like the frozen one.
Well, I got 2 left over there.
Good. Oh, I just took a little bit of the crumble. I mean, oh my gosh, that apple was yummy.
Yeah.
Kind of goes good together with mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
See, I got some too when I ate the carrots and the peas. Actually, that sweetness is it's good together.
Yeah.
With the peas. That meat is really tender. I mean, it's.
Well, it's hamburger meat, but you make it like a meatloaf kind of.
But I've had some where it's like.
It's tough.
It's tough. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard. Yeah, I like tough or hard. I don't like hard. I mean, I remember having them like the mashed potato and turkey.
The mashed potatoes were always horrible. They were like freeze-dried potatoes. And then I remember the turkey with gravy, yeah, because it was basically just like...
I'm trying to think what else. Well, chicken pot pie, I've tried that. But I still don't like frozen.
Because the turkey meat was just like... like sandwich meat that they just threw gravy on, you know?
Yeah, that's what it looked
And then
like.
sometimes they put like 4 or 5 little cubes of stuffing, like a bread in there, some cheap ass.
Yeah, it was only a little, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like,
And then the fried chicken, the pieces of chicken were so damn small, and you could never make it where it was like really fried chicken. It looked like fried chicken, but it never tasted like fried chicken, really.
well, you know, nowadays, the serving size is small.
The serving size was small back in
Yeah, I
those
know,
days.
but I mean, back then, I don't know, I think it was made for, not toddlers, you know, like
They were made for kids.
kids, yeah.
Yeah. It was for the mom that was on the run, you know, the one.
But
that had
nowadays,
to-
I don't know that nowadays how supersize it. It's like I don't think the
It's not big enough.
TV dinners have changed. You know,
No. The TV dinners are so damn small. I mean, couldn't even feed a midget with one.
that's really good.
Well, it's a for real TV dinner. That's the way it's supposed to be. If you think about it, because on the box, they always make it look like it's a gourmet meal, and you open it up and it looks like something you got out of a vending machine.
It's good with the mushrooms.
Yeah.
I don't think the TV dinners put mushrooms, do they? I wouldn't know
There's been a couple I've seen, but not the old school ones.
because I don't.
The old school ones they didn't. It's just like some of the new ones. You'll see 2 little slices of mushroom on top, and that's it. You know. And it'll say mushroom flavor. It won't even say with mushrooms.
yeah, I
It'll
don't
just
thi-
say
yeah.
with mushroom flavor. It's like I don't even know what that means. The ones my mom used to get, I think, were Swanson.
Swanson's, yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm telling you, these veggies taste good with this crumble. It's so weird.
Apples and peas and carrots are both sweet naturally, kind of. So it would make sense.
It's like you can drizzle over it. It's really good. Oh,
And,
that's
and in the
true.
middle was always the
Oh yeah, that's true.
the apple crisp or the cake that always tasted
It was
like
so
shit.
small. Oh, I know. Ugh. I didn't like it. It's like
Was
rubber.
it chocolate cake or something?
yeah, devil's food cake or something. Or,
Yeah, something like that. It was it tastes like shit. So if you were a hungry man after you ate that, would you be a no longer hungry
Look at
man?
this. I almost. Babe, I usually don't eat. Look at this. I'm almost done with it.
Power to the people.
I'm still eating.
Because it's a normal, to me, that's the size of a meal that should be like a normal guy could have. And he'd be like, okay, I'm full.
Well, yeah, for a guy.
Yeah.
Look at me,
Not
I'm a
that little
pig.
ass, those little ass Salisbury steaks the size of a credit card.
I know. God must be a pig. Look at this.
Anyway, guys, that's that. That's the 1970s TV dinner, except how you're supposed to do it. And time-wise, actually, it's maybe only 20 minutes longer than it would take if, you were just to get a TV dinner and throw it in an oven. So,
This is much better flavor and it's probably healthier for you.
everything except for the damn apple crisp.
I know.
But anyway, guys, that's that. So until next time, talk at you later.